Welcome into Duval Daily, presented by GinJag.com. I'm Jordan Alugo. Thanks so much for tuning in here on Thursday, January 9th. Excited to get into this show today. This is going to be my full prediction for the Jaguars offseason, right? Like, obviously, it's already kind of started. We've seen Trent Baalke's being retained at this point. I know there's rumors, conjecture, reports that Baalke might not be the Jaguars GM beyond the coaching search. He's just helping Shad Khan out. I don't buy that until I see it, right? Trent Baalke's survived a lot of power struggles. I think he's going to continue to be the Jacksonville Jaguars general manager. I'm going to continue believing that until I see otherwise. Bottom line, point blank, period. So we are going to predict the Jaguars head coach, defensive coordinator, 3 biggest free agent additions, top 4 draft picks, and getting past the offseason a little bit, going to predict their 2025 record. It's way too early to do all this, but it's going to be a lot of fun. Just a very early January 9th. How is the 2025 calendar year going to go in Jacksonville for these Jacksonville Jaguars? Really appreciate y'all tuning in. If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. Let me know what you're expecting from the Jacksonville Jaguars in 2025. Do you think Trent Baalke is going to be the GM long term? Is he going to continue to be the GM? Top decision maker in Jacksonville? Let me know. Comment section below. Who do you think is going to be the head coach? Let me know. So, as I mentioned, Trent Baalke is the Jaguars general manager until he's not. I expect him to continue to hold that job, to hold that title. So when we're talking about free agency, when we're talking about the draft, you have to do that with Trent Baalke in mind. Now, when it comes to head coach, I said this last night on Club Jaguar over on UCF Jaguars channel. Have a great time doing that every Wednesday night, almost every Wednesday night. You know, it was really weird that Christmas and New Year's were both on Wednesday this year, so we had to skip both of those. So it had been a couple weeks, but had a good time chopping it up with UCF Jaguar about the Jags last night over on his channel. Go check it out. I think Liam Cohen is going to be the Jaguars head coach. Why do I think that? I think that he is one of their top 2 candidates. We've heard Mia O'Brien say that. I think when you look at Ben Johnson and Liam Cohen, they are my top 2 candidates. The reason being is they've both done an extraordinary job with less than perfect situations as offensive coaches. I think that they both are going to be able to connect with the younger generation as guys in their 30s, and they are ripe. They are time. It's their time, right, to become head coaches. I think that they've both done enough in this league to earn that. I think Ben Johnson should be the number 1 candidate, but I think Ben Johnson, looking at how I think this is going to play out, I think Ben Johnson's going to go to Chicago. I think Mike Vrabel is going to go to one of the other jobs. I view 3 jobs as really pretty darn good jobs: Chicago, New England, and Jacksonville. I look at the Saints. That is an organization that is stuck in their ways. I look at the Jets. That's an organization with an owner that's off his rocker. And then I look at the Las Vegas Raiders, and that's a whole, they're a very strange organization too. Jaguars, you can say, are strange, but at least you have an owner who's not meddlesome, an owner who is willing to invest from a capital standpoint into the football team consistently, and you have a quarterback and a wide receiver you can get excited about, some other really nice pieces as well. So I view New England, Chicago, and Jacksonville as the 3 best jobs. I think Vrabel's going to New England. I think Ben Johnson's going to Chicago, which I think then leaves Liam Cohen deciding where he's going to go. And I think Liam Cohen will pick the Jacksonville Jaguars so he can have his opportunity to work with Trevor Lawrence, Brian Thomas Jr., and the rest of these guys. So I think it's going to be Liam Cohen. I think Robert Saleh is going to be the defensive coordinator. He has a connection here. He's been here before, and it's not like ancient history. He worked here when Shad Khan was the owner. So I think that Robert Saleh, I think they're going to give him a big, big payday to come be the Jacksonville Jaguars defensive coordinator. If not him, probably Patrick Graham. They're interviewing both of these guys supposedly for their head coaching jobs, but I wouldn't be surprised if either of those is actually kind of vetting them out to see if they have any interest in becoming the Jaguars defensive coordinator of the future, as well as talking with them about the head coaching job. So that's kind of how I view that. Liam Cohen as your head coach, Robert Saleh as your defensive coordinator. I think that would be a pretty darn good duo there. And then I would love it if they're able to keep Heath Farwell. I would absolutely love that. Hopefully, him being here, him having an unbelievable rookie kicker he's been working with, Logan Cook, Ross Matisic, 2 Pro Bowl guys. Hopefully, you can convince Heath to stay here. I think that would be really good for the Jaguars moving forward, having some stability on special teams. Obviously, you're not losing Ross or Logan or Cam, but I think Heath Farwell is a really good coach. Now, getting to the three biggest free agent additions. And before we talk about these additions, I will say I think that they will make one big move in terms of players that are on their roster, cutting someone, big cut. To me, it's going to be Christian Kirk. Um, I know he's a Trent Baalke guy, but there was also rumors they were trying to trade him, and he's going to save the team $10 million against the cap if they decide to move on. So I think that Christian Kirk probably the Jaguars move on. You know, there's Parker Washington who can play in the slot. I think that he's coming into his own. Obviously, Trent Baalke signed Gabe Davis last year, drafted Brian Thomas Jr. So I think they move on from Christian Kirk. And I don't really think Trent Baalke looks at it and says, we got to replace him, right? He's like, I got Brian Thomas Jr. I got my wide receiver one. I still have confidence in Gabe Davis that if he's healthy, he's going to have a much better year in 2025. I like Parker Washington. Still got Evan Ingram in the building, right? So I think he's going to be looking at the wide receiver room feeling pretty good about it. You know, we just got to be a little bit healthier this year. We got to feed Brian Thomas Jr. the way we did down the stretch the entire season, and we'll be just fine. I think that's what Trent Baalke is going to view this thing as. Maybe they add, Devin Duvernay is still there. Maybe they add a role-playing wide receiver, but I don't see them going out and getting T. Higgins, right? I don't see them going out and getting Amari Cooper. If I was in charge, I would certainly be interested in pursuing those options, but I don't think that's going to happen. Now, looking at these three biggest free agents, I expect Trent Baalke to go get. I think that obviously Brandon Sheriff is on an expiring contract. He's 30. If he's not 33, he's about to be 33. He is still a very good pass blocker. He really struggles in the run game at this point. I just don't think he has the juice consistently to create push at the line. I think the Jaguars are going to let him walk. When Brandon Sheriff signed here, when Trent Baalke signed Brandon Sheriff, he made him the highest paid guard in football. I think he's going to do it again. I think he's going to make Trey Smith the highest paid guard in football. And Trey Smith is not the consistent pass protection presence that Brandon Sheriff was in his prime, but he's a darn good guard, and his X factor, his what he really brings to the table, nasty mauler at the point of attack. And he comes from one of those organizations that Trent Baalke loves to poach, right? He loves to go get guys from championship level organizations. Well, there is no organization that is more championship level than the Kansas City Chiefs. And look, Trey Smith, he's in his prime. He's 25 years old. He's playing at a high level. He is a good pass protector. Again, even though he's not like Brandon Sheriff level and in Brandon Sheriff's prime, he is still a very good pass protector, and he can really move you in the run game. So I think Trey Smith would be one of those guys that Baalke would be looking at, how do we get this running game really working? Obviously, we got to coach it up better, but Ezra Cleveland, Trey Smith, that is two really good run blocking guards. And I think that could help out in a big way. And I think that Trent Baalke will view it the same way, honestly. And I wouldn't be dropping $22 million on Trey Smith simply because I feel pretty confident about my ability to go get a starting guard in this draft. But Trey Smith, you bring him in, maybe he's immediate Pro Bowl caliber addition. You're paying a pretty price for it, but the Jaguars will have plenty of cap space. According to overthecap.com, I'll pull up the updated numbers, but if you're moving on from Christian Kirk, Jaguars are going to have a big salary cap, big amount to spend, right, cap space wise. So checking in on 2025 cap space, team cap space right now, $36 million, just under $36 million. You move on from Christian Kirk and you're over 46, and we still don't even have the official numbers on what the cap will be. This is just projected. So they're going to be playing with plenty of money. And you talk about signing a guard to $22 million per year deal, probably 3 or 4 year deal, whatever it may be. Year one cap hit, you're probably looking at $8 or $9 million. So 45 minus, let's just say 9. Sitting there with $36 million in cap space. You're also going to go sign Justin Reed, who's someone I would be in favor of signing. I think, another championship organization type of guy, Justin Reed, coming from the Kansas City Chiefs, has played with the Houston Texans. He's the type of safety that whether you are a cover two shell team or you're more of a traditional where you've got a single free safety and then a strong safety. I think Justin Reed and that type of system, cover one type of system, is more of your box safety. In a cover two system, he can play either spot for you. I think Justin Reed is a tremendous downhill trigger type of guy. And the reason I think that Justin Reed could become available is because I think the Chiefs drafted his replacement in Hicks out of Washington State, who's gotten some run this year. So I think that Justin Reed hits free agency. The Jaguars probably offer him somewhere 15 million ish. Again, the cap continues to rise. I know 15 million might sound like a lot. He's currently getting paid like 10 million. I think Justin Reed is in the prime of his career. I think he can bring some consistency, some tackling, good angles, some physicality. Trevor Lawrence talked about it today. This team needs an edge. They need toughness. Trey Smith and Justin Reed both bring that in spades. And I think that Trent Baalke is going to view this the same way. So I think those are the top two. And then I could see him going and getting like an Azeez Ojulari, someone like that. And the reason I singled out Azeez Ojulari is because he's got length. 34.5-inch arms, Azeez Ojulari. Trent Baalke loves that. So this is a guy that comes in as your rotational edge rusher. Somebody that can spell Trayvon or Josh Hines Allen, or if you want to get into a crazy lightning package and have Josh, Trayvon, and Eric and Azeez all on the field at the same time trying to get after the quarterback, that could make a lot of sense, right? So those are the three biggest free agents. Again, moving on from Christian Kirk, signing right guard Trey Smith, safety Justin Reed, edge Azeez Ojulari. And this kind of, in Trent Baalke's mind, I think it's going to make up for not really getting the job done when it comes to making sure that the third edge is not going to be a weakness. Ever since 2022, when it was an extreme strength with Arden Key and DeJuan Smoot, you had some really good depth there. He's going to make sure that he gets that taken care of. And that leaves you entering the draft with really only one major need. And that's at cornerback. And the last couple years, they have entered the draft with a major need. Last year, it was at wide receiver and corner, you could say. But I think wide receiver clearly, and then also the year before at offensive tackle. So we'll talk about the draft. We'll talk about that record prediction. But first, I got to remind y'all, making picks on Underdog, it is straightforward and signing up is even easier. Just head over to Underdog's simple-to-use mobile app or UnderdogFantasy.com. Sign up with promo code DuvalDaily, and Underdog will give you a free pick to use on your first cash pick'em entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. Maybe you think Justin Herbert or CJ Stroud will pop off. Maybe you think they're going to have duds of a game. One of those two guys is not going to do well. The other team's going to win the game. You make the call over at Underdog Fantasy. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code Duval Daily to claim your new customer special of a free pick and your deposit offer. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in the state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP. That's 1-800-639-8783 or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. So, again, this is all predictive. This is what I'm predicting, and it's way too early to know. What I'm predicting is going to happen. Liam Cohen, head coach. Robert Saleh, defensive coordinator. 3 big free agent signings. Trey Smith, Azeez Ojulari, Justin Reed. Moving on from Christian Kirk. All right. Getting into these top 4 draft picks. And the reason I did 4 is because they have 4 picks in the first 3 rounds. And I did a predictive mock draft earlier this week, so you can go check out that as well. But I really try to get inside the mind of Trent Baalke here. Again, I think that the way he set things up in this scenario is he set himself up to draft a corner at number 5 overall. And that's exactly what he's going to do. That's what I did earlier this week in that predictive mock. Cornerback Will Johnson out of Michigan. He's prototypical. He's got the size, he's got the length, he's got the athleticism. I would love this pick too because not only does he have all those physical traits you get excited about, you can tell he studies the game. He studies his opponents. He studies how they're trying to attack. Not only does he study the offense how they're trying to attack, but the individual players he goes up against. He makes incredible plays on the ball. You know, Travis Hunter is this unbelievable, instinctive, and explosive zone corner. I think Will Johnson probably has a little bit more versatility between zone and man. I think he can thrive in either, and he's going to be a stud in the NFL. So Will Johnson at 5, that'd be a pick I'm very excited about. And up next in the second round, this is where Trent Baalke likes to get a little frisky, a little weird, do some things that folks aren't very excited about. I'm not saying I wouldn't be excited about this one, but it'd probably be one of those picks where people are like, oh, that's the Trent Baalke special. We did sign Justin Reed, but do you really feel that confident beyond Justin Reed? Darnell Savage, yeah. He's played games in this league. Do you feel great about that? No. Um, Andrew Wingard, yes, he's played games in this league. Yes, he believes he's a starter. Do you feel great about that? No, not really. Antonio Johnson, I mean, there's still a lot of development needed there. So Trent Baalke, he's going to go get Kevin Winston out of Penn State with his second round pick, and he's going to say, look, we studied the tape. This is a guy that was a borderline, maybe even clear first round grade for us if he had not gotten injured and missed the 2024 campaign. Trent Baalke special. Did the same thing with Walker Little. Andre Sisco coming off the ACL, drafted in the third round. Mason Smith last year obviously played in 2023, but was not quite himself recovering from the ACL, right? So Kevin Winston, the Trent Baalke special, and he's a really good safety. I cannot deny that. So I think especially if you're in a cover 2 system, or at least a system that does a cover 2 shell, quite often Kevin Winston and Justin Reed together, I mean, that is a massive improvement. And these are two guys that are reliable tacklers, just sound football players. So again, I wouldn't be mad about it, but I think that's one that would have some folks scratching their head a little bit, and maybe depending on who's on the board, make some folks angry. And then with their first third round pick, I've got Gray Zabel out of North Dakota State. I can really see Trent Baalke sitting here saying, look, this is an offensive lineman who has great athleticism. He meets my thresholds with the length, right? And we feel he could potentially be a 5-position flex with great versatility, at least a guard and a tackle, maybe even a center as well. He's been playing tackle at North Dakota State and dominating there. I am a fan of his game, and so I would not be mad one bit about this pick, but I could see Trent Baalke being a big fan there of the versatility he can bring to them and eventually being a starter, down the road. And then their final pick that we're talking about here in the third round, running back Travion Henderson. And I can see him saying, look, we do love Travis. He's on an expiring deal. We love Tank. Both of those guys have specific traits that they really bring to the table. Travion Henderson is more of a complete back. He is a tremendous pass protector. He's a tremendous pass catcher and route runner. And he's a very good runner in his own right. And he's going to bring the complete game that we really need to help take this offense to the next level, to complement the guys you have. And when he's on the field, there's no limitations, right? When Tank Bigsby's out there right now, you probably know he's not going to catch the football out of the backfield. You probably know if he's sitting in there in pass pro, you got a decent chance of getting past him. When Travis Etienne's out there, you know he's not going to be super dangerous running the football up the gut. You know that he's not going to be very good in pass protection. Travion Henderson, if he's out there, everything is on the table for you, right? So I think that's where I have Trent Baalke going. And the one thing you can say is they didn't really go address the receiver position. But again, he spent big money on Gabe Davis last year, and he drafted Brian Thomas Jr. in the first round, and he's got Parker Washington, Evan Ingram. I think that you could certainly talk about tight end being a position of need. I think that they could address that on day 3 or bring back Luke Farrell. So looking at the record prediction here, it's really interesting because, I've been candid. I do think that the Jaguars had a playoff caliber roster this year. Obviously, injuries didn't help. I think that coaching was the biggest issue this year. Culturally and toughness and coaching. Like, I do think that there was a lack of toughness on the team, which comes from the top down. I also think there was a lot of boneheaded decisions from the coaching staff on both sides of the ball, which we've talked about ad nauseum. I don't need to continue to get into that. But if Liam Cohen is dialing up the offense and Robert Saleh is calling the defense, and you talk about adding a third edge rusher who's a talented guy, you talk about really revamping the safety room, Eric Armstead playing defensive tackle, which he said he's going to, Mason Smith getting more run, adding Trey Smith to that offensive line, Travion Henderson to the backfield. I would have to say, if this is how the offseason plays out, I would think in a division that is still weak, Tennessee Titans seem rudderless right now. Indianapolis Colts, the Jaguars have had their number. Now, getting rid of Gus Bradley, that could help the Colts. We'll see who they replace him with. But they've got some work to do from a talent perspective in the secondary as well. The Texans stumbled into the playoffs. I'm not saying the Jags are going to win the division, but I think they're going to be right there. First or second in the AFC South. Probably 10-7, 9-8, something in that range. I think Trent Baalke has proven he has the ability to build playoff caliber rosters. I think the issue is getting it past that point. And maybe this is the type of offseason with this type of coaching upgrades, with these roster upgrades, that they would be able to push forward. And if Trevor Lawrence is able to stay healthy and have a full 17-game season, right? And you have a little bit more injury luck around the roster. Who knows? But that is my predictive Jaguars 2025 offseason. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. Y'all have a good one.